Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special live stream. As you all know, the US News has released its annual MBA rankings, and like every year, we see some big surprises in this year's rankings too. So we decided to invite Jennifer, who is the former admissions director and the CEO of Aringo Consulting, and pick her brain on the rankings and things that stood out to her. We will also discuss some general aspects such as the usefulness of the MBA rankings and how much emphasis one should put on rankings while selecting business schools to apply to. And Jennifer is also happy to answer your questions, not just about rankings, but other areas of MBA applications as well. So get ready for an insightful talk with Jennifer on the US News Best Business Schools 2024. Thank you, Jen, so much for joining. It's great having you here. And yeah, I think let me just start like immediately with question number one. And guys, feel free to put your questions in the comment section, and we will bring them up as soon as we are done with some of the questions here. So let's discuss the big winners and losers of this MBA rankings. Wait, I'll just bring this up right here as y'all can see. I hope everyone can see the image. Okay. So we can see that Stanford rose 5 positions to claim the top spot. Haas, Darden, McCombs have also made some solid gains. How do you interpret this improvement? I would also want your take on the schools that fell in the rankings, such as Ross and Tuck.
Yeah. So Selby, thanks again for having me here today. I'm super excited. And you guys, as we're going through, don't forget to like and subscribe because this helps us give you better, more relevant information as we go along. So,
Sure.
Okay. So rankings, right? Like this is crazy. I feel like there should be like punching gloves and it's like, who's going to win kind of thing. But in the end, right? Like the schools in the rankings are really based on different things depending on different ranking companies and etc. So, US News and World Reports, they have changed their methodology and have put the focus on employment statistics and on the salary you're getting after you graduate. And so that's why we've seen some of these changes happen. And so Stanford going up 5 spots really says that there's been some changes there. Now, the other thing that US News and World Reports has done is they've taken the specializations that each school has and they've aggregated the proportion of salary to each one of those areas. And so one thing I would say with Stanford, Haas, and maybe some other schools is that they do have a bit more of like social impact emphasis. And so those areas tend to have less salary than like MBB, finance, those huge financial winners. And so by doing this proportional ranking, I think that that's where Stanford saw the gains really is in that area. And then, similar with Haas, and then like even I'm thinking that we're seeing like Yale come up in the rankings as well. So I think we'll see a lot of that. And so, that's where we are kind of seeing more bang for your buck in the wallet when it comes to these schools as it is kind of ranked by US News and World Reports. So the other things that, you have to kind of understand is, and there's Reddit forum kind of controversy going on. And I've seen Bogdan has made a lot of comments as well. And the other part that we would say is like, if you look, Stanford and Haas, man, they are in some areas with some really high cost of living. So their salaries most likely are going to be representative of that higher cost of living. So we see it go up proportionally there as well, where maybe some of the East Coast schools, you're not getting that salary bump based on location as well. So that's a little bit of a quick take on some of these winners here.
Oh, okay, makes sense. My next question would be, when a school ascends on a ranking ladder, is it because of changes in the fundamentals? Like, for example, the quality of the incoming class is improved or the placement rate is improved and students are getting better salaries? What causes a school to go up or down in rankings?
Right. So every admissions committee is looking at the different levers that they have to pull whenever they're creating or crafting a cohort. And so, each one of them are going to be focused on different areas to be able to help with their rankings. So you'll see some schools will really focus on GMAT scores or GPAs or pre-MBA employment, right? Like how likely are you to be able to get into an MBB or a finance role? So those are some of the things that like a school might do or change in their admissions process to be able to grow in the rankings. And then obviously, like, again, there's some changes to the rankings that have been a little bit more helpful for, scaling on, employment and statistics and, the salary. So we did see a couple of those schools go up where they might have more of like an impact nonprofit or, not those big signing bonuses, that type of stuff when it comes to rankings. And so we've saw that now that they're proportional, they can get higher in their rankings based on that. So, that's where we'll see some of these jumps. And I think like we might want to kind of go in a little bit to the fundamentals of the methodology of the rankings. And so US News and World Report essentially said that 50% of their rankings goes into the placement and the salaries. The other 50% kind of goes into the class profile and the school's profile with recruiters, alumni, and other business schools, and then some other factors. So again, like there's some slightly smaller things that are kind of factoring into it. And when we think about class profile and some things that have evolved over the past 5 to 7 years, I would say is GMAT waivers, right? Like schools providing those waivers. And so some of the schools that are providing waivers have taken a little bit of a hit. I think that that's, why maybe like Cornell, their salary might have gone up, but they're still at 15 and they're static at 15. So, but the methodology there can, sometimes toggle whether somebody goes up or down as well. But I think that you'll get to see some really cool factors. I think that a lot of people think that Tuck going down 4 spots is amazing. Tuck is well known for its community, its affinity, not exactly sure exactly what made Tuck fall down 4, but it's these little itty bitty changes that could happen in the class profile or placements that can really bump another school above the other one. And it can be tiny little changes.
But it makes a huge impact nonetheless.
Exactly.
All right. Well, my final question before we take audience questions, and guys, feel free to ask in the comment section below. Also subscribe while you're at it if you're still in this live session. Okay, how should someone who's planning to apply to business schools treat these rankings? Like how much emphasis should one put on rankings when shortlisting programs to apply to?
So honestly, like this group of like T20, top 20 schools, top 25, they're kind of the same names for the most part. So you would kind of, like if they're in this ranking and maybe they go up, even like 4 or 5 spots and change within the top 25, you're going to a great school. You're not going to have as much of a problem getting a job, getting high pay, that type of thing. So, that can be one factor of like, okay, so I'm deciding to go to a T25 school. Then as you decide between specific schools, the ranking can be a little bit different. And I would say like almost by, like now that US News is looking at the aggregated data of which industry is getting what type of employment and salaries, that could be a great place for you to find some data, almost just like the career report for each one of these schools, right? Or employment report. And so you can kind of dive down into that data to have these rankings help you. Like I think that there's a lot of debate of, do the rankings really influence your placement after you graduate? There definitely are some, industries like consulting and finance that are definitely going to impact where you kind of go. The other part is like, if you are going to be studying abroad, and the brand that carries back to your home country, if you're planning to return, is going to be important. And these rankings obviously are the place where the name gets boosted on a global level. So that's definitely something to take into account, is how much does the school brand carry back home? And I would definitely, keep that in mind. But, beyond that, these are kind of helping you with a bit of a guideline. I would say the biggest thing is to go somewhere that's going to help you with getting where you want to be in your career, and that's going to help pay for the future, right? Like, that's going to give you a salary that's going to make sense for your career, where you're going to live and what you're going to do next. So, you can take it or leave it as far as like the rankings. And I think there's that kind of dichotomy, is like, people are like, either like, it's a ranking, or people are like really into it and they're diving deep into this data and seeing the trends and are really living and dying by that. So, you decide which side of the fence you're on.
Interesting. Oh, okay. That's awesome. And we do have some questions here, so I'll quickly bring them up. Someone said that Ross School of Business dropped 4 ranks on the ratings too. Are you aware of any particular reason respected to that, Jennifer, or are the reasons similar to the ones that you explained?
Yeah, a lot of that goes into the salary changes, right? So when we look at Ross, and hold on, I'm just going to make sure I get to my right thing. So they are down 4. And some of the reasons for that have to do with their employment rates and their salary, right? Like, so Ross is one of those ones where it jumps in and out of the top 10 year by year. I wouldn't say that makes it any less credible than it was last year or the year before, right? So I don't see anything that's a major indicator that you like should not go to Ross just because of this change. It's just, again, those little increment changes that can make that happen.
Makes sense. All right. Oh, well, we got a comment from here. Wondering why Harvard is stuck at number 6 when GSB grabbed the number 1 spot again.
Yeah. So, and I think that you can see the difference in the pay, right? So if we look at Stanford and Wharton, their pays are averaging around $210,000 a year, and Harvard is the 196. So they take a bit of a hit there, where, that name brand of Harvard does carry, but sometimes it doesn't equal the same in pay. And that could have to do with different industries as well. So again, it's all about perspective.
Makes sense. All right. Sam here said, what aspect of a phase-out period is relevant for test takers?
Ooh, good question. So when I was looking at the methodology, and this is actually kind of a little myth busted for maybe even some admissions consultants like me, when we're looking at the rankings, they are now factoring in not only the GMAT and GRE, but also, now they're going to have to figure out how they put the GMAT focus in there. But they're going to put that all into perspective, and they're assigning them a bit of like a generic scores. So what I'll say is that the school is responsible for the translation of GMAT, GRE, GMAT focus, like what that all looks like. It doesn't say that there's any sort of separation between GMAT tradition, or like the traditional GMAT and GMAT focus in their scoring right now. But what it says is it like takes both of those scores on a 100-point scale, and then it multiplies them by the percentage of how many students were admitted with those scores, etc. So, I think that we'll have to see where that kind of plays out starting this year, and how the rankings. Well, okay. So let me say it this way: we don't know yet. Well, just put it that way. Right now is we don't know. I think that some of the onus will go on to the schools of how they translate those scores, if they're taking mixed scores, which they all are, and how they're going to interpret them. But that will come into play next year in their rankings. And I haven't seen anything predictively about how any of the rankings are going to account for taking two different scoring scales from the GMAT and see how they're going to incorporate that into the rankings. So we shall see.
All right. I'll wait for some more questions if there are any. Oh, okay. We have it here. There are multiple MBA rankings, US News, Financial Times, Bloomberg, Forbes. Which one do you personally find most credible or trustworthy?
Good question. So I think that part's it's hard to know which one is going to be most trustworthy. I'll say that it's which one is more aimed towards what you're looking for, if that makes sense. So the great thing about the Financial Times is that it's international. It's global, whereas U.S. News and World Reports is very centric to the U.S. So if you're looking from a global perspective, you're applying as an international student to another school, the Financial Times is going to be more reliable because it's going to actually integrate those international schools into the ranking itself. And so that's, one factor. U.S. News and World Report, definitely a very trusted brand, and something that I would say you can count on them being a favorable or honest ranking, which obviously is debatable. You can see it on the subreddits about people's thoughts and opinions, but I do find them credible. They're in all different markets, not just the MBA world. So they do have their methodology, the science behind it. And again, like in the end, like if you're in the top 25 and there's a little bit of a change, it's not as big of a deal, but you don't see dramatic changes that are happening every year that go to persuade you of thinking that somebody's paying to be on this list. There were some changes that happened this year, but logically they make sense because of the change in the methodologies. And that's what I'll kind of say.
I mean, I personally haven't gone through the subreddits yet, but what were some interesting or shocking things that you read? Or what was actually the most shocking thing for you when you saw the rankings come up?
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, like Vanderbilt. And I know that's not even like listed on like kind of our like screenshot of big winners, but Vanderbilt making it into the top 20 is kind of a big deal. They've kind of been on the rise, and you can kind of see that progression happening here. And so it's great to see them on the rankings this year. I would say that, I think people are always shocked when HBS is ranked number 1. But, the shock that has been continuing to happen year over year in different rankings. So it's not as big of a deal. I'll say that beyond that, I like to see that these, and I don't think that this is a shock, but this is more of like comforting to see that like Darden, Duke, McCombs, they're all kind of staying right here in this zone of they're in and out of like the top 10, top 15. Right in that range. And that they're solid schools. They're technically not an M7, but they are strong contenders that are producing results. And that when you apply and attend these schools, that you're going to get the results that you need post MBA. And that's what I like to see. And seeing that year over year really is kind of, I guess, like comforting to say.
Makes sense. All right, we do have some question here. Is Booth better than Wharton in reality, academically?
I think it depends on what you want, right? Like, so Wharton is a bit more of a team-oriented community. And so, if that's something that's really important to you, I would definitely, emphasize Wharton over Booth. Booth is known to be a bit more academic and a little bit more individually focused. And I mean, like, slightly less than others. So, it almost becomes like a bit of a culture difference. I would also say the difference of East Coast pure East Coast versus Midwest would be the other side of things. I think that the Wharton brand carries higher, longer, further than Booth does, but Booth is a solid school that's definitely proven itself year over year as a solid top, almost 3 to 5 every year.
Awesome. Okay, I'll take the last question here. What are the different brackets of schools from your perspective? For example, after the M7 schools, is it T20?
So people typically will break things down from M7 to T10, T15, and then top 20, top 25, right? And so I think that most people who are saying, I'm making a significant investment in an MBA program, I'm, either traveling far, taking 2 years out of my life, going international, I want a T15 or T25 or higher. So that's really the big bracket that you're looking at is top 25. And then you can kind of break it down by each one of those different segments of T10, T15, and kind of feel like where you are in that range. And I would say that your competitiveness is either you're in the M7 competitive range or you're kind of out of it. And if you're out of that M7 competitiveness, the difference between T10 to T25 is not that much, right? Like it really starts coming down to personality, career goals, and fit with that specific school.
Makes sense. All right. Well, before we end the session, Jennifer, it would be great if you could just quickly talk about Aringo admissions, how one could reach out to you after this session ends, and then we'll end the stream.
Yeah, absolutely. So Aringo's been around for about 20 years. We have been helping people get into top MBA programs around the globe, not just in the US. And so we're here to help you. You can reach out to me at jennifert@aringo.com, or you can always just register on our website and it'll get right to me. But we can help you with your application, whether that's a fully comprehensive service of, helping with your strategy, your applications, as far as all the materials, resume, letters of recommendation, essays, videos, interview prep, all parts of it. Or if you think you just need like a gut check before you submit that application, we're here to do that as well. So we help you on all aspects of the application, including that interview prep. And right now we're working on a lot of waitlist friends. So we do everything. And so we're here to help. And we also help candidates that aren't necessarily focused on MBAs, but also looking at master's programs across the board as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this. This is definitely insightful, and I hope we're going to get to do this again soon. All right, I'm going to end the stream now.
All right. Thanks, Selby. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.